Hey YouTube, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and the week one of the NFL has completed. There been some great games. There have been some players that were absolute duds and some players that actually stood out. But of course, like anything else, there have been some injuries. So we are here for your week 2 waiver wire video to help you guys out and get you into the right position to have some success for this week. And again, there's a game Thursday, so we want to make sure these are out for you right away. So let's check it out. First player I want to mention, we're going to go by position, is Baker Mayfield. Look, he's available in 66% of most leagues. And look, he had a great game week 1 with 4 touchdowns and over 29 fantasy points, only behind Josh Allen. He has a great matchup against the Detroit Lions this week, where last playoffs, he had 3 touchdowns and over 30 points in fantasy as well. So not only is this matchup going to be very similar to what he did last season, I know every season is a little different, but Baker Mayfield is just rolling in from last year into this year, and he's playing out of his mind. And then you add a player like McMillan from their rookie. Godwin's back into his natural spot. You got Mike Evans, who's obviously a great wide receiver. Again, great matchup this week. Baker Mayfield should be your number 1 waiver wire waiver wire player if you are in need of a quarterback, especially for all of you Jordan Love owners. I know it sucks to see that happen. He's going to be out at least 3 to 4 weeks. He has not put on IR, so we'll see how that plays out for your roster spot, but Baker Mayfield should be on your roster. Another quarterback I want to mention is going to be Justin Fields. He's available in 86% of most leagues, which is very understandable. Look, he went into Sunday possibly being the quarterback starting, and then he ended up getting thrusted into it. Fields didn't have the full week of practice like you would hoped, and I think just realistically, this offense is still a work in progress. Fields did not play amazing, but I will say this, because of his rushing ability, you always got to play that as a factor. So if you are a Jordan Love owner, couldn't get Baker Mayfield or anything like that, Justin Fields may be someone you might have to grab, only because he may end up starting again. The Steelers could put, Russell out of week 2 because, again, it's a calf. You got to watch those things. But I think Justin Fields may be worth grabbing if possible. Now, the last quarterback I'm going to mention is Derek Carr. He is available in 90% of most leagues, but here's the challenge. He is going against Dallas's defense. Dallas played amazing against the Cleveland Browns. They absolutely put a spanking on them. So there's a chance that, of course, this is a really tough matchup. Now, Derek Carr ended up finishing as top 10 quarterback this week in fantasy, and including myself, no one had seen that coming. But he put up over 20 points in fantasy. He had a very clean game. And again, could be a quarterback you may have to put in your lineup because of the Jordan Love situation. Now, depending on how deep your league is, he may not have to, and that'd be great for you. But available in 90% of most leagues, you definitely want to consider grabbing him or even rostering him on your team if you can, just for certain matchups. This week is not one I would love, but I do think he's worth grabbing just because of what he's capable of doing if he is on his A game. Now, the running back position, the first running back I want to mention is going to be Alexander Madison for the Raiders. Look, he's available in 96% of most leagues. Now, I'm curious how the Raiders are going to handle the running back situation. Madison was the clear-cut, effective, and efficient back, and obviously has better value in the passing game. I do expect Zamir to have some value, only because I think he's still going to get forced touches until they decide that they're going to go with the hot hand, which would be Alexander Madison at the moment. Now, I didn't love Alexander Madison last year for the Minnesota Vikings, and it was very clear he is not the true RB1. He is a great change of pace back. He's the guy who kind of fills in a game or two. I don't expect him to be the RB1 for the Raiders the rest of the season, but he might be a nice change of pace back that it's enough where, like the Tony Pollard Zeke dynamic, he gets enough points. So again, he's definitely somebody you may want to end up on your roster just because of the capability. Another running back you may want to put on your roster this week is going to be Justice Hill. He's available in 96% of leagues. Now understand, Justice Hill, if you are a Derrick Henry owner, Justice Hill should already be on your roster right now. Like, he should be on your roster. I'm not saying he's going to replace Derrick Henry, but the way they're kind of building this roster and how this offense seems to be playing out, Justice Hill is the clear-cut receiving back. He's the third down back. He's the guy that if they're behind, they need some passes, he is the guy to be in there. He had 6 receptions in week 1. But The other thing that you got to look at is they're probably going to utilize him on the ground just a bit to save Derrick Henry for the real thick of the season. They did what John Harbaugh said was they didn't bring Derrick Henry to have 30 plus touches, which I do think it's a little bit of coach speak, but I do think it might be actually honest truth, because I do think they're thinking end game. They want Derrick Henry to be healthy during December and January when he's really needed, especially in those colder games, and the running game is such a huge effective piece. So Justice Hill might end up being utilized a lot more. Again, if you were a Derrick Henry owner, Justice Hill should be on your roster. Another running back you may want to consider adding, and this is precautionary, is Jaylen Wright for the Miami Dolphins. He's available in 79% of leagues. This is only because Achane and Mostert both left the game hurt, and they're playing on Thursday night. So this quick turnaround may actually end up being bad for both Achane and Mostert. And if they cannot practice, which they did not on Monday, there's a good chance they miss this game, which means Jaylen Wright ends up becoming the RB1. Now, I don't think he's going to be an RB1 in fantasy. I do think he's going to be more of an RB2 because of the upside. His speed and his ability really matches up really well in this Miami offense. So with that said, anybody who's got Achane or Mostert, you may want to consider rostering Jaylen Wright if possible, just because you don't want to get stuck in that situation like the Monday night game where Christian McCaffrey last minute ends up getting out and you had to get Jordan Mason if you could. So just be careful and keep your eye on the injury report. Now, the number one running back you should obviously grab on your roster this week is J.K. Dobbins for the Chargers. Now, he's available in 51% of leagues, which is, again, not too shocking because Dobbins, nobody expected to have a big season. Look, he's had obviously some injuries in the past few years, and there's definitely some hesitation. And even on my part, like as an analyst, I didn't know what to do with J.K. Dobbins. I think his talent was there. I just didn't know if he'd be healthy enough to actually really show off this season. And Gus Edwards did come into this season as the RB1. Obviously, that can always change. But he's definitely going to be the most sought after running back this week because he ended up having over 22 fantasy points. He had 135 yards on the ground and a touchdown. He is going to be the guy taking advantage of this hot hand situation in the Chargers. And I think this is going to be a team that they are going to use both backs, but I think they are going to go to that hot hand. And this so far looks like it's going to be Dobbins. So you may end up being able to pick up a waiver wire back like him and actually end up having a really awesome RB2/low end RB1 the rest of the year. Now, jumping into the wide receiver room, I think Rashid Shaheed is somebody you may want to consider putting on your roster. He is available in 46% of leagues. He has a lot more value in obviously leagues that give points for return yards, but Shaheed is coming off his best year last year, and it's only going to continue this year. And it continued into week one. I don't love his matchup against Dallas. I think this Dallas defense is pretty legit, but if you're going to have to start a receiver, I think Shaheed's got more value again over Olave. Olave is going to be obviously covered by Diggs. Diggs is a great cornerback, which the rookie cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys will be covering Shaheed. So there's an opportunity for Shaheed to have another successful game. Again, I'm not saying start Shaheed, but if you're needing to start one of these wide receivers from the Saints room, I think Shaheed is a great option, and he is available, like I said, for waivers. Another receiver I think you should consider is Tyler Lockett for the Seattle Seahawks. He's available in 39% of leagues. Geno looked great, and when he does, Lockett becomes the beneficiary. It showed this past week. Lockett saw 7 targets and made plays. He had 6 receptions, and he made those plays when needed. He's definitely the guy that Geno feels really comfortable throwing first downs, for a third down situation. He's the guy that, if he's running out of the pocket, Lockett's going to be the one there. I still think DK Metcalf's still a wide receiver too, but I think Lockett has really kind of cemented himself as the wide receiver 3. In fantasy, I think he cemented himself as the wide receiver 2 still in Seattle. I think he has lost that job to, Smith and Jigba. So again, if you're on a deeper league or you've got plenty of positions to kind of fill, I think Lockett might be somebody you may want to end up having on your roster because Geno may end up turning it up again. He had some struggles last year, but I like the way the Seattle offense started off this year. Another receiver is Kahlil Shakir for the Buffalo Bills. He's available in 38% of leagues. I understand Keon Coleman led in targets, and I still think he is going to be the wide receiver 1, but Shakir did score and caught all 3 of his targets. Shakir has the rapport and trust with Josh Allen, which is going to be huge, especially in crucial situations. Shakir will be the guy he's probably going to look at. So the more this season comes along, I'm curious how this offense is going to play out. I'm curious who ends up becoming the wide receiver 1 truly. I still lean more towards Keon Coleman, but Shakir kind of has a little bit of an edge, and I think he might be a receiver you may want to end up grabbing, because once this offense starts to get flowing and going, it takes a few weeks. Shakir may end up being the one on that side. And another the receiver I like this week, he's going to be a little bit tougher to grab, is Jameson Williams for the Detroit Lions. Look, he's only available in 26% of leagues, but he had a great game and saw lots of targets his way, finishing the game with over 24 points. And he showed why his talent has gotten most Lions fans excited and the Lions team excited. Here's the only concern that I have, and it's still why I've never really jumped on the bandwagon for him, is his injury concerns are still legit and still concerns you've got to play in this kind of scenario. You're hoping that he has a healthy season. And honestly, if he does have a healthy season, Jameson Williams may end up being a league winner for sure. He is a guy who can take advantage of teams focusing on Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown and just taking teams right off the top, because that's what he's capable of. That's the kind of big play he is. And the fact that he saw over 9 targets in the first game, they're not afraid to throw down the field. Goff's got that type of arm. Man, Jameson Williams may actually end up making me look like a fool, which is great for everyone else because you guys were able to take advantage of him. Again, 26% of leagues are still allowing him out there. I would consider grabbing him. The last receiver I'm going to mention is Ladd McConkey for the Chargers. Look, he's also available in 26% of leagues, and he is the clear-cut wide receiver one so far for the Chargers. And again, a lot of it's based off of the first week and obviously the depth chart, but if he continues this development with the rapport and trust with Justin Herbert, I think McConkey's going to be a nice one going into the season. I didn't really jump on that bandwagon with him. I think a lot of it was I was uncertain how that offense was going to play out. I wanted to see more before I did it. I did think McConkey's value in Dynasty was better than redraft, but if he continues what he's doing and having this type of consistent play, like 15 to 16 point games, he's going to end up being a solid wide receiver 2 this season, and his redraft value absolutely going up. Now, the tight end position I'm going to mention, I've got 2 players here. I've got Luke Schoonmaker for the Dallas Cowboys. Schoonmaker's available in 99% of leagues. He becomes the tight end 1 with Jake Ferguson, obviously missing at least 3 to 4 games with his MCL sprain, which is not great news. But great news that it wasn't season ending. There was a possibility of an ACL tear, which it was not, which is great. Schoonmaker was the 2nd round pick the previous year in the draft. So obviously Dallas believes in him and they think highly of him. So he could be an effective target for Dak. Dak kind of saw things as CeeDee Lamb, Ferguson, Cooks. And now it's probably CeeDee Lamb, Cooks, and then possibly Schoonmaker. So this is an offense that is going to throw the ball a lot. They didn't have to in the first week, but I do think that's going to increase. You definitely paid Dak to throw the ball. So Schoonmaker might be a nice little filler for the next few weeks. And of course, the number 1 player you should grab is Isaiah Likely for the Baltimore Ravens. Isaiah Likely is not going to be one of those games. I don't think it's going to be one and done. I think he's going to have a great season this year. He put a lot of work this offseason, really learning the route tree, learning with the wide receiver coaches. He wants to be on the field, and I think the whole Ravens offense wants him on the field, even with Mark Andrews there. I don't think Mark Andrews' game was a bad game as far as we got to get rid of him. Mark Andrews will improve and will get better. He's coming off a pretty bad injury from last year. With that said, Mark Andrews and Likely will be on the field together. I think Likely will be in line. I think he'll also be in the slot. They're going to move him all over the place in this offense to really take advantage of his athletic ability and his size. He's going to be a red zone threat, which I think does affect Andrews a little bit. But again, I don't think his first game was a fluke. I think this is just the way this offense is starting to go. I think it's hard for people to kind of let go of the fact that Lamar may actually end up liking Likely a little bit more than Andrews. Again, I think they're going to be both fairly treated well. I think they're both going to have value. But again, Likely should be obviously rostered in most leagues. Now I'm going to mention a couple kickers. I got Chris Boswell, 95% availability. Cairo Santos, he's available in 75% of leagues. So again, some good kickers you may want to grab this week. And then the only defense I want to kind of mention is the Los Angeles Chargers. They've got a great matchup this week. And again, they're available in 89% of leagues. So if you are kind of a team that streams defenses, they may be somebody you want to consider grabbing. So that's my week 2 waiver wire video. If you guys do have questions of players you should pick up, or maybe you're already starting to do trades, hit me up in the comments down below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and of course the like button while you're there. Of course, we'll be putting out our start sit content this week as well to get you guys ready before the Thursday night game. So again, make sure you guys are prepared and ready for that. Hit that notification bell. Again, subscribe and like, and I'll check you guys out next time.